These are just some of the 7.35 millions of London's dwindling population. These millions of everyday people live in a variety of places that roughly correspond to the variety of their cultural, ethnic and social backgrounds. Sociologists trying to fit all this together into a recognisable pattern talk about a city being divided into various zones. To see what this means in practice, we'll look first at Brixton, an inner city zone.
In Brixton, you've got the normal run-down area of an inner city from which people have disappeared. You know, I mean, they've all gone off to suburbia, haven't they, really? Leaving, as in so many inner city areas, leaving just the old folk and the immigrants to come in, so that you get a much denser population and you get a much more mixed population. Brixton is an area in which virtually all the races of the world live almost, cheek by jowl.
Well, it was really living conditions brought me into Brixton area, because it was very hard at that time to get a place to live, you know. You have to move from one place to the other. And when I came in the country first, for what I heard about Brixton, I didn't like it. But after I get to live here, I think that is the people. It's not the area, it's the people that live in Brixton. Because if you live, wherever you live, if you make it good, it is good. And if you make it bad, it's bad.
Some areas of Brixton are really bad and live up to the name Twilight Zone. It may not be where you'd like to live, but whole sections of the population don't have much choice. At best, an area like this can put a roof over somebody's head. But then cities don't stand still, and twilight zones are also areas of change. The local council can play a great part. It can decide to put up council flats. It can renovate old houses, or make money available to the more well-off to encourage them to move in and do up the property themselves. That, in turn, influences the character of an area, and this can be seen in some of Brixton's shopping facilities. In wealthier zones of a city, you wouldn't expect to find a second-hand clothes market.
But you will never see Scott part of all the time on the so she
The Brixton arcades are a reflection of part of the local way of life. The zones of a city aren't divided up with frontiers and checkpoints. It's more subtle than that. But there's no mistaking when you've crossed over the invisible boundary into a new area.
It's an obviously attractive area. The first bit of open space as you come south from Victoria.
The Dulwich population has probably been fairly stable for a very long time and is middle class and upper middle class and even above that possibly. The only reason that Dulwich is as it is because the whole area belongs to the college and is, I suppose, in a sense, conservation at its best.
The college, as it is fondly called, has the full title of Allain's College of God's Gift, the name given to a group of influential citizens who govern not only Dulwich College, but apparently much of Dulwich as well.
The Board of Governors is sort of a big imposing body. You see their roles draw up at the college. Owns vast amounts of property around here, owns the whole of Dulwich Village.
The influence of the governors is quite considerable, and to an outsider, seems concerned most with preserving this affluent area for the fortunate few. The governors do allow building in the village, but on their own terms, and the price range maintains an effective barrier to keep out the less affluent.
I should think a young family with a couple of children would have to pay anything upwards of £18,000 for a modern terraced house. For, of course, the genuine Georgian ones, people could expect to get £70,000, £80,000.
As there aren't enough Georgian houses to go round, some new, superior luxury residences are being built by Allain's College of God's Gift. Although at £28,000 a time, the idea of a gift hardly gets a look in. For the less wealthy, there are council houses on the outskirts of the zone, which is where some Dulwich residents would like them to stay. Building them in the heart of Dulwich
It would be rather a shame because part of our heritage. It's a museum piece, really. I mean, we have the original pub and the antique shop, and it might get lost in the hurly-burly of modern life.
A representative of the Dulwich Society, set up to preserve the amenities of Dulwich, said that they don't mind council housing as long as it's not too tall. Council estates where buildings are only 2 stories high, he said, have enabled the tenants to lead a middle-class existence. As you might have gathered, to live in Dulwich, you've got to have money. Many of the residents are in the executive bracket and commute up to town.
You have anybody from those who work in the city. I mean, for example, my husband's in a merchant bank. We've got neighbours who, one chap makes films. There are a lot of journalists, of course, living in Dulwich because the communications with Fleet Street are excellent.
But Brixton is on the other side of the tracks. It has problems that Dulwich doesn't face. The inhabitants are more crowded together, for one thing. They're more likely to work in ordinary jobs than in the professions, and they face a serious unemployment problem in any case. Most of the housing isn't in the superior luxury residence class. and most of the people aren't in the high income brackets. All this has to be taken into account when you consider that the crime figures are higher in Brixton than they are in Dulwich. All these factors help sociologists to draw up patterns common to all cities that try to show where different people live and why. If the differences between various areas become too great for too long, it can lead to conflict under the banner of social justice. You've only got to watch the news regularly to see warning signs of that, both from home and abroad. In the meantime, the twilight zone of Brixton fringes the residential zone of Dulwich without much friction. And Dulwich Park remains a nice place for an afternoon in the sun.
Dulwich is a more residential area than Brixton, because more well-off people than living in Dulwich. But mind you, Brixton is a big district, you know, very big district. So you get all class of people, poor, rich, black, white, red, brown, everything in Brixton.
These are the people who are going to have to come to terms with their surroundings. And how do you come to terms with surroundings like these? But the children of Dulwich have their problems too.
Well, there's a very good boys' preparatory school, Dulwich College Prep School. There, children have to be put down almost at birth, and of course they are interviewed before they're even accepted. They all are supposed to be up to a certain standard, even at 5.
If the educational rat race does grab you at 5, where does it leave you when it's over?
You've only got to mention that you've been to Dulwich College to someone from another school, and there's automatically a barrier goes up. And, you know, oh, you're from Dulwich College, therefore you don't want to know anything about us.
And that doesn't offer much hope for removing those invisible barriers.
That's the nearest cinema, Brixton, and the nearest discotheques are in Brixton, but personally I wouldn't go there, no. It's supposed to be a rough area, I suppose. So I'd prefer to go up to London rather than go to Brixton and have ice creams chucked on you from the Circle or something like that.
How we get rid of the barriers is something that's got to be thought of for the benefit of those growing up to be tomorrow's everyday people.